There has been a nationwide decline of thousands of retail outlets. This time, it's not some obscure brand that's extraordinary. These are names that have been ubiquitous for many years. 12 famous American stores are now going out of business, while 3 are fighting for survival. At first view, they merely appear like unconnected shop closures. However, a pattern becomes apparent upon assembly. That, my friends, is the narrative behind this film. Jo-Ann Fabrics, number 12. A spool of thread wasn't the only reason you stopped by Jo-Ann. You strolled in with a fairly short shopping list, then spent the next 30 minutes standing in front of aisles of bright fabric, choosing out the ideal design for a quilt you were completing, your daughter's first outfit, or a Christmas present you wanted to create with your own hands. That's why seeing Jo-Ann leave has affected so many people so deeply. After almost 80 years, the nation's greatest fabric and craft business has reached the end of the road. Stores numbering over 800 are being sold off individually. 2 bankruptcy filings in less than 2 years took down a company that had withstood recessions, outlasted big box shops, and even made it through the early years of e-commerce. What pulled Jo-Ann down wasn't one lousy shopping season. It began years earlier when the corporation took on a significant amount of debt. Sales rose during the epidemic, but it only covered up the fractures for a time. Once life returned to normal, client traffic fell, but the debt never went away. And one by one, the shops started to go. What's most remarkable is that following the closure announcement, very few individuals spoke about bankruptcy or a short time, yet enough to make a shop part of your memories. Now, Claire's is once again going through another reorganization after years of dealing with debt and rapidly diminishing client traffic. Many shops have already shuttered, while others are up for sale or waiting for their next choice. But what makes Claire's so tough to keep alive isn't simply the statistics. Years ago, Claire's was nearly inseparable from the retail center. You'd shop for clothing, watch a movie, get some ice cream, then swing by Claire's for a few minutes. The entire excursion was part of the experience. Today, that experience isn't the same anymore. Many malls are significantly quieter than they used to be. The items individuals formerly purchased on impulse suddenly show up on a phone screen in seconds with hundreds of cheaper choices. Claire's didn't lose its customers overnight. It eventually lost the motive for people to go through the front door, and that's what makes Claire's narrative distinct from Jo-Ann's. Jo-Ann lost a creative community. Claire's lost the exact site where so many first-time memories were formed, moments that people still remember to this day. Number 10. GameStop. Midnight. A queue of customers extends outside a GameStop. Some brought foldable chairs. Some were sporting shirts from the game they'd been waiting months to play. The clock strikes midnight, the doors swing open, and the entire queue explodes in cheers as the first game copies are delivered to consumers. That used to be the launch day for a big video game, and GameStop was always where the moment started. Today, that scene has nearly faded. This year, GameStop continues to shutter hundreds of shops around the nation, continuing a downsizing process that's been going on for years. Even the shops that remain have altered swiftly. The shelves of video games are becoming smaller, while trading cards, collector figurines, and memorabilia take up more and more room. It's not because people quit playing games. If anything, the gaming business is larger than ever. What changed is how people purchase them. A new game now takes only a few minutes to download, straight from PlayStation, Xbox, or Steam. There's no travel to the shop, no waiting in line, and no moment of having that brand new game case in your hands before opening it right there in the parking lot, the way so many people used to. GameStop didn't lose customers because games vanished. It lost the reason people had to go through its doors. That's a tremendous difference. Some companies fail because they offer the incorrect product. GameStop was offering the perfect product in a world that had fundamentally transformed how consumers acquired it. Maybe that's why witnessing GameStop diminish has been so sad. Because when a business closes, often what leaves with it isn't the thing on the shelf. It's an entire experience that a generation imagined would always be there. Number 9. Macy's. A retail center might lose dozens of businesses when one major set of doors shuts, and in many instances, the doors belong to Macy's. For decades, Macy's was never merely a department store. It was the anchor store, the spot many retail malls were constructed around. People come to Macy's to purchase apparel, household items, or presents, but along the way they'd stop for coffee, eat lunch, pick up a new pair of shoes, or meander into a few smaller businesses they never meant to visit in the first place. That's how a whole mall kept alive. Now Macy's is going ahead with plans to eliminate about 150 shops throughout the nation after numerous prior rounds of closures. For the corporation, it's a plan to concentrate on sites that perform well, but for many shopping malls, the narrative doesn't stop with one retailer. When Macy's goes, weekend foot traffic disappears with it. The smaller shops that rely on people strolling by began seeing fewer customers. Restaurants had fewer tables full. Coffee counters have shorter queues. Then, more and more "for lease" signs began appearing along the same corridor. It's the domino effect the retail sector has been witnessing for years. What's interesting is that people are still purchasing clothing. They're still purchasing perfume. They're still purchasing household items. It's simply that less and fewer people spend a whole afternoon roaming around the mall the way they used to. And as that habit changes, the shops that were established around it have no option but to shift with it. Number 8. Eddie Bauer. That jacket is still sitting in the closet 10 years, 15 years. Some folks have used it over dozens of winters, and the zipper still slides easily. The stitching still holds, and the waterproof covering still performs its job. That used to be Eddie Bauer's strongest advertising. Customers told each other, no advertisements, no social media, just a jacket excellent enough to be worn from one trip to the next. But by mid-2026, the firm running Eddie Bauer outlets is still reorganizing after filing for bankruptcy. Around 175 locations throughout the US and Canada are due for closure if a new investor isn't found, while the corporation bears nearly $1.7 billion in debt. It's a paradox. A lot of people still trust in Eddie Bauer's quality, but believing in the goods no longer ensures they'll step inside the shop. The outdoor market hasn't vanished. National parks are still busy. Weekend camping excursions are still completely booked. What changed is how customers chose their brands. Some are seeking for the lowest price. Others are ready to pay extra on businesses with a stronger personality, like Patagonia or Arc'teryx. Eddie Bauer was wedged in the midst, not cheap enough and no longer distinctive enough. Maybe that's the most thought-provoking aspect. For years, Eddie Bauer demonstrated it understood how to manufacture an extraordinarily durable jacket. But in retail, a brand doesn't thrive because of the jacket people are still wearing. It lives because of the jacket they select to purchase next. Number 7. Kohl's. There was a time when many families came into Kohl's without even knowing what they were going to purchase. They arrived for something else. Coupons. 30% off, Kohl's Cash, bonus incentives. For years, it was one of the most effective methods in American retail. People would walk out with a few blouses, a new set of bed linens, or a coffee machine, always feeling like they had landed a fantastic bargain. But by mid-2026, Kohl's is diminishing its footprint too. The firm continues to shutter failing locations as revenues remain under pressure following many quarters of decreased retail visits. What's interesting is that consumers still adore discounts. They still adore the sensation of discovering a fantastic bargain. What changed is where they find it. A smartphone can now compare prices from dozens of businesses in just a few seconds. The item that previously made Kohl's stand apart has become something practically any shop can provide. That's the toughest difficulty. Kohl's didn't lose its coupons. It lost the sensation that this bargain only existed here. And in retail, when a campaign is no longer enough to lure consumers through the front door, a brand has little option but to move with the changes. Number 6. Kroger. You may modify where you purchase your clothing. You may spend years without stepping foot in a retail center. But there's one location practically every family goes every week: the grocery store. And that's precisely why Kroger's intention to shut about 60 stores throughout the nation signifies something entirely different. This is one of the major supermarket chains in the United States, where millions of households purchase their milk, eggs, bread, and groceries for the week. So what's happening? A lot of folks assume it's just inflation. In actuality, the narrative is far broader than that. After its roughly $25 billion merger with Albertsons was denied, Kroger missed its opportunity to grow its size and compete more effectively with Walmart and Costco. At the same time, labor, transportation, and insurance expenses remained growing, while buying preferences changed quicker than before. More and more families are breaking up their shopping lists: meat at Costco, milk at Walmart, fruit at Aldi, weekly specials at Kroger. They're no longer devoted to one food shop. They're devoted to the lowest price. That's the true change. Kroger isn't running out of consumers. What it's losing are full shopping carts when every supermarket trip is split across 3 or 4 separate retailers. Each merchant progressively ends up with a lesser part of the transaction. It's the type of development that's practically difficult to observe in a single week, but over time, it's enough to cause a whole grocery chain to downsize. Kroger's narrative makes one thing very clear. Even the businesses that provide life's common staples are no longer guaranteed to preserve their position if the way families purchase starts to change. Number 5. Walgreens. The doctor has already sent in your prescription. You drive to your normal drugstore exactly as you usually do, but when you get into the parking area, the doors are closed. All that's left in the window is a brief note directing you to another shop many miles away. That's a time more and more people are only starting to experience. After more than 124 years in business, Walgreens is pushing ahead with a plan to shutter about 1,200 shops around the nation over the next few years. This year alone, roughly 100 additional sites are going down as the corporation reduces failing outlets. Unlike Joann or GameStop, Walgreens wasn't selling a hobby. It was marketing something nobody wants to need, but virtually everyone will sooner or later. What's noteworthy is that Walgreens isn't losing business because people stop purchasing prescriptions. It's suffering because its business model is evolving quicker than ever. Many of the goods that formerly earned solid profits are now being purchased at Walmart, Costco, or online for less. At the same time, every prescription brings in less profit than it used to, while operational expenses continue to grow. One homeowner in Manhattan Beach, California, stated there was a Walgreens on the corner near his house for more than 20 years. But in all that time, he only stepped inside the business twice. That's not an uncommon story. It's Walgreens' toughest issue. A shop may exist in the same position for years, but if less and fewer customers really need to step inside, even the ideal location couldn't rescue the company behind it. Maybe that's the most significant element of the narrative. Walgreens isn't going because the nation no longer needs it. It's because even a company established on life's most vital necessities has to adapt when the way people purchase and the method they manage their healthcare has entirely altered. Number 4. Big Lots. The Big Lots sign is still up in some areas, but by mid-2026, it's no longer the Big Lots that millions of people previously knew. After bankruptcy and a big wave of liquidation sales, only roughly 220 outlets were taken over by variety wholesalers and reopened. Hundreds of additional stores have either closed for good or changed ownership. It's one of the greatest retail declines the nation has witnessed in recent years. What's interesting is that Big Lots never marketed premium things. It offered couches, beds, household basics, packaged food, the types of goods families still need every day. What changed wasn't the demand. It was where people choose to spend their money. Walmart keeps growing its low-price assortment. Costco continues recruiting consumers via its membership strategy. Dollar General continued establishing hundreds of additional locations. Even many of the buildings Big Lots left behind were swiftly taken up by Aldi, Ollie's, or TJ Maxx. Big Lots didn't vanish because people stopped seeking for cheap. Quite the reverse. Saving money has never been a larger importance than it is now. What the corporation lost was the edge that formerly made it distinct. When every rival can sell for less, move quicker, or provide more convenience, cheap prices cease being an advantage. They become the minimal necessary merely to remain in the game. That's what makes Big Lots' tale so intriguing. In today's retail market, merely being inexpensive isn't enough anymore. Number 3. Dollar General. In many tiny communities throughout America, Dollar General used to be the sole business remaining lighted, even when the closest supermarket was dozens of miles away. That's also why the business developed so swiftly that it nearly felt like a new location opened every single day. By mid-2026, Dollar General had expanded to more than 20,000 outlets throughout the nation. But for the first time after years of non-stop development, the corporation has begun shutting failing stores and decreasing the pace of new openings. It's a paradox. One of the fastest-growing merchants in the nation is suddenly declining too. Dollar General's success originated from one very basic idea: bring daily goods to regions where the larger retail chains didn't want to invest. One man in Missouri claimed his family used to travel roughly 11 miles every time they needed food. When Dollar General opened, the journey became only a few minutes. That's the edge that powered the chain's rise for years. But as the retail network got increasingly saturated, additional sites ceased bringing in new consumers. Instead, they began competing with adjacent Dollar General shops as labor and operational expenses were growing. Dollar General isn't floundering because rural communities fled. It's failing because even a business strategy that once looked practically unstoppable has its limitations. Maybe that's the greatest lesson from this tale. In retail, building additional outlets may help you develop tremendously rapidly, but ultimately, that same velocity of growth might become your largest impediment. Number 2. CVS Health. You probably don't think about CVS every day unless you need to pick up a prescription. That's why CVS continuing to cut its retail footprint in mid-2026 is considerably more relevant than the figures in a financial report. After a multi-year reorganization strategy, CVS has shuttered about 900 shops countrywide while retaining a network of more than 9,000 surviving sites. Instead of growing via new shops, the firm is focused on maintaining the sites with the biggest consumer traffic and the largest need for healthcare services. That's hardly the hallmark of a brand in decline. It's the hallmark of a company model that's reinventing itself. More medications are being filled using the app. More clients are preferring home delivery. The in-store health clinics are becoming more essential than the retail aisles themselves. CVS doesn't require as many stores as it formerly did. It requires more efficient ones. That's the greatest difference. For decades, development in retail virtually invariably meant building new outlets. By 2026, even a chain with more than 9,000 locations is showing the contrary. Fewer shops, greater performance. That may very well be the path the rest of the retail business will have to confront in the years ahead. Number 1. Party City. There's only one Halloween every year, but for decades, when that season came, millions of families knew precisely where they were going: Party City. From birthday balloons and graduation festivities to Halloween, this business previously nearly fully controlled a sector with very little significant opposition. At one time, Party City operated more than 850 locations throughout the United States and Canada, becoming nearly synonymous with festivities themselves. But by mid-2026, much of that network is gone. After 2 bankruptcy cases, the great majority of its conventional shops have either closed or been liquidated. Many of those sites were rapidly taken over by rival merchants, putting almost 40 years of expansion for a once dominant brand to an end. What's noteworthy is that the desire for festivities never vanished. Birthdays still happen. Halloween still arrives every year. Graduation celebrations are still being hosted. What changed is where people purchase such products. Balloons, decorations, costumes, more and more of them are being bought online or picked up during a typical shopping trip to Walmart, Target, or Costco. Party City didn't lose sales because people stopped celebrating. It lost the reason shoppers needed to make a special journey to its shops. And it may be the largest transformation the retail business has experienced in recent years. It's not that the items vanished. It's that devoted journeys to a single retailer are steadily decreasing too. The 12 retail businesses we've just looked at didn't collapse for the same reason. Some were buried with debt. Some were overrun by shifting buying patterns. Others just couldn't keep up with the times. But amid all of these changes, there are still 3 shops that haven't simply held on. They've continued to grow and draw more clients. What they're doing differently is the most intriguing element of this narrative. Number 3. Walmart. Throughout this film, we've seen one store after another decline, but there's one name that keeps cropping up in practically every story: Walmart. Some individuals grumble about the self-checkout lanes. Some grow annoyed that common objects are locked behind glass. Others miss the Walmart of 15 years ago, when shopping was easier and a lot more fun. But then the weekend arrives. The parking lot is still crowded. Shopping carts are still queued up, and many families are still going through the same front doors. That's the greatest conundrum in American shopping. By mid-2026, Walmart still runs more than 4,600 shops, makes over $680 billion in yearly sales, and continues increasing same-day delivery, automating its supply chain, and building Walmart Plus to retain consumers within its ecosystem. But technology isn't the major factor. The greatest reason is that Walmart knows what many other shops have missed. As family finance is increasingly tighter, inexpensive costs are no longer a benefit. They're the beginning point. A lot of individuals no longer consider Walmart as their favorite location to shop. They perceive it as the location they have to go. And not because every shopping trip is flawless, but because it's rare to locate someplace else where you can purchase food, medicines, home supplies, and hundreds of other daily products in a single trip at costs that help keep the monthly budget under control. Maybe that's the greatest difference. Throughout this list, we've seen several shops striving to maintain consumers by hanging on to what they used to do well. Walmart maintains consumers by becoming a destination that many families just can't replace. Number 2. Aldi. Smaller parking spaces, fewer personnel, fewer merchandise. Yet every year more consumers prefer Aldi. By mid-2026, Aldi has exceeded 2,500 shops in the United States and remains the fastest-growing grocery chain in the nation. Following the purchase of hundreds of Winn-Dixie and Harvey's shops, Aldi keeps adding new outlets at a regular rate. What's noteworthy is that Aldi has never sought to become Walmart. An average Aldi stocks just approximately 1,800 to 2,000 goods. A Walmart supercenter can hold well over 120,000. Customers take their own carts, bring their own bags, and bag their own items. In exchange, their food cost is generally smaller. That's the formula Aldi has pursued for years. Cut practically every superfluous expenditure to keep prices as low as possible. While many businesses compete on convenience, Aldi competes on discipline. Fewer options, fewer services. But for many families, just one thing truly matters: walking out of the shop with a smaller food spend than last week. Maybe that's why Aldi continues to grow when so many other businesses are being forced to downsize. Number 1. Costco. Every weekend, the same scenario plays out in towns throughout the nation. The parking lot is already practically filled before the peak hours even begin. That's Costco. By mid-2026, Costco has topped 900 warehouses globally, with more than 620 of them in the United States. Membership renewal rates in the US and Canada continue to hover around 90%, one of the highest rates in the whole retail business. That's the bit that truly sticks out. Costco isn't attempting to have the lowest price on anything. It's aiming to make clients think that every journey is worth it. A carefully picked product portfolio, large volume buying, extremely low profit margins on numerous things. In exchange, buyers are ready to pay an annual membership fee to keep shopping there. It's a totally different business model. While many shops rely on each individual transaction, Costco creates its connection with clients the moment they become members. You may not shop at Costco every week, but when it's time to purchase food, toilet paper, bottled water, or higher-priced home products, Costco is still the first place many families think of. That's why Costco is adding new shops while so many other retail chains are shrinking, not because it's selling more things, but because it has hung on to the one thing that's hardest to develop in retail: the trust that today's shopping excursion will be just as rewarding as the previous one. The 12 stores on this list didn't disappear for the same cause, and the 3 that remain aren't succeeding the same way either. But collectively, they all indicate one very evident change. Today, a shop is no longer characterized by how long it's been there or how large it has gotten. It's characterized by whether it still provides you a cause to come back next week. Maybe that's what you'll remember most after this video. Not which store is shutting, but which one is still part of your regular life. Is there a shop on this list that you still frequent every week? Or is there one that's gone but you still miss to this day? I'd love to hear your tale. It could be a lot more familiar to others than you.